welcome to this episode of the RLM podcast. I am joined in the studio with my co-host, Jalea Spees.
Hey guys.
Hey, and we are excited to have this podcast with Kara Miller. Kara Miller is a
Hi.
good friend of mine. We've known each other for a couple years, um, and she actually requested to be on the podcast, and so I thought about it and I agreed.
Oh, you had to think about it? Okay.
I have to think about anyone who asks to be on the podcast. I gotta think through the logistics of it. But we're excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Just introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, well, my name's Kara Miller, and I'm a junior at Hempfield High School. And, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, no shame in that. I would, of course, I would like to center the topic of discussion today, kind of around. Obviously, you had in your little mini bio that you had showed me, you had said that you're very much into feminism and into, I don't know how to say this delicately, I guess supporting upbringing women, upbringing
I mean, yeah.
feminine,
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm pretty girly.
Yeah.
I don't really, I'm not super, big on the feminism movement.
Right,
I don't
right.
really know anything about
Yeah.
that. But, like I said, I'm pretty open-minded, so let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I would like to know what is your take on the whole, on people who are extremely feminist and are extremely, women can do everything a guy can do and all that stuff. What is your take on that?
I definitely feel like people should be able to choose their own path for themselves,
Right.
I definitely think that if you want to be whoever you want to be, and that is something that most people don't think women should be,
Right.
then that's your own choice, because
Yeah.
your life shouldn't really affect other
Yeah.
people like that. And I mean, there are definitely certain instances, certain employers, or with anything racism or
Yeah.
anything, where it's there are people who are biased towards that,
Right.
and are putting women down. But I think definitely we've come a long way
Yeah.
in America.
Julia, how do you feel about it?
I totally agree. I feel like it's honestly up to you. As long as you're not causing harm or causing other people problems, then it's all up to you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as the only guy in the room, I feel like I'm a little, I believe that, yes, like you said, it's entirely up to you what you choose to do. There's no reason for anyone else to be the one forcing you into anything or making you, have to do something or making you feel like you have to be, in a certain role or whatever. I guess I've never agreed with the people who are I've never agreed that necessarily one, that men are more important than women or women more important than men. Honestly, but then if you really think about it, women are more important than men. I mean, if you really think about it, we don't exist without women.
I mean,
because
yeah.
it's not how the human body works. But I don't know. I've never liked the people who are just women have to be women have to do women things. I think that's obviously, of course, that's sexist and that's not fair. Exactly.
Definitely.
It's. I guess, have you ever had any instances where you felt like someone was judging what you were doing because you were doing something that they consider not, it wasn't womanly of you, or they were like, oh, you're acting too manly or whatever?
When I shaved my head, that was a big thing. I shaved my head in 8th grade.
Yeah. I do remember that.
Yeah, it was just kind of impulsive, and I don't know. I definitely got a lot of people telling me I look like a dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It wasn't the.
Now, was it just them being honest and just being you look like a dude, or was it them being judgmental?
Yeah, it was definitely with malice
Right.
intent, which it's 8th grade. It's not that deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't a huge thing, but I don't regret doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think everyone should shave their head.
Oh, that's
At some
a little
point.
wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone bald maybe 3 or 4
Bald.
times. I'm
That's
bald 3 or
that's
4 times.
crazy.
Yeah. It was all in like second. It was in elementary school. I don't exactly remember how old I was, but yes, I've gone bald multiple times. I would not consider going bald now, only because I feel like I would look a lot different when now that I'm older with
Mhm.
bald hair than I would as a chubby little kid with with a bald head. I think
Aw.
there's a big difference. Now I would just look like an angry old man. Like there's, I don't have the smooth face anymore. I have
Okay.
wrinkly face.
No.
Well, the point is, I mean, it is always important that even if you're going to ever make a choice where there is a possibility of you getting judged. I mean, and essentially
Mhm.
every choice you make, there's a possibility of
Definitely.
someone choosing to judge you for it. I think it's also important that, like you said, don't be sorry, don't regret it. Just
Mhm.
be confident in the choice that you made,
Mhm.
and can continue to move forward with it, and be like, you know what, I don't really care how you feel about it. I'm still gonna be this person. I'm still gonna do.
Mhm.
I'm still gonna. It's like no matter what you say, I still have a bald head, so it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not really changing anything. And I would say that from from what I know about you, that you're very. I'd say you're very comfortable with who you are. You're
Mhm.
very
Thank
confident.
you.
I mean, you are. You just you. It's not everyone who has. They have the confidence. They have the. I don't know, they're charismatic about who they are. That they're
Mhm.
comfortable enough to just be like, hey, I'm who I am, and I'm unapologetic about
Mhm.
it. So, kudos to you for that.
Well, thank you, Eli.
Um, Now I do want to ask, what I don't know how to put this. Gosh, I'm like bad with my words today. I have not been able to think straight all day today. Um, was there has how like celebrities always they almost always take a side when it comes to talking about I don't know, when it comes to talking about feminism, or when it talks to them about any sort of thing where they have to take an extreme side, right? I mean, they almost always take a side, and I mean there are some that will back out and just they won't say anything. But would you say there was any like person that you saw, any celebrity that you kind of saw, and you were like you agreed with them so much you were just like, yeah, everything you're saying is like perfectly almost exactly matching what I'm thinking.
I don't know about any celebrity. I don't really follow celebrities like that. Mm, I feel like my sister, she's like a good role model for that. Like,
Yeah.
we definitely agree on like a lot of things, like, like whatever it is, like politics or just like social issues.
Yeah.
We definitely have a lot of the same opinions with that. What about you?
I I mean, I'm that person who I listen to every side, I listen to the arguments of people who are extremely feminist, and I also listen to the side of the
Mhm.
people who are not feminist and are very open about that. I mean, to bring up one person who's extremely controversial in that topic, um, Andrew Tate. I mean, he's extremely he's extremely controversial when it comes to pretty much anything, because I mean, first he challenges everything, and that's one thing I almost admire him for, is that
Mhm.
he challenges like every subject. He challenges the way people, the way people act, the way people think. He makes you almost be like, is this right? Is this correct? And I think that's actually great, because it doesn't allow you just to
Right.
sit in one train of thought and never move away from it. He's like, hey, is this really is this really the truth? Is this really how this works? And I think that's like one of the best things that you can do, is be the challenger. So yeah, I've always now I'm not saying I agree with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate hasn't always said the best stuff,
Mm.
but he does make some good points. There are some
Yeah.
things where I'm like, dang, the dude's actually making a fair point.
Yeah. I would say also, depending on where you live, things are going to be different.
Right.
Like in the
Mm.
So
United
true.
States, things are so different than
Yeah.
Iran or Iraq, and the
Right.
roles are just different. Like people over there, they do like follow gender roles, and some of them are happy about it, some
Yeah.
of them aren't. And
Mhm.
that's just
I mean,
how you grow up, and that's just how you're going to continue to live.
absolutely. Yeah. Great point, actually. I mean, even, yes, of course, in the Middle East, it is even more, that's where, the media focuses on about how the roles of women are so, they're heavily oppressed, they're heavily forced into a certain way of living. But I would almost say, like you said, I mean, in any country there is a norm for how men are supposed to act and for how women are supposed to act. The men are supposed to, they're supposed to
Protect.
they're supposed to protect. They're supposed to bring in the money. They're supposed to go to work and all that stuff. And no woman. And when I say supposed to, I'm not saying that's what.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is what their standards are in that society. Then the women are supposed to stay at home and
Bear children.
bear children, take care of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's not fair to force them into that role, you can almost see where someone who's like, well, men should be doing what men should be doing, women should be what women do, right? You can almost see where that comes from. Because think about it, right? Back in, I don't know how far back you want to go, back before modern technology was invented, before all, everything kind of changed. Women were giving birth to more than 5 kids easily. So they were stuck at home. They were taking care of the kids, or of course, the richer people had nannies home, taking care of the kids. The women taking care of the kids, they're taking care of the house, while the men are going out and they're working. Whether it's working on the farm, they're working. Actually, I don't think actually the woman did work on the farm, but the men are out doing office jobs, 9 to 5 office jobs, so to speak. And the women are at home taking care of the kids, right? And you can almost see how that's just going to continue going through to force certain people to think, well, that's just what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, that's what they've been doing. Why is there a need for them to change, right? And then you get into the early, at least for America, it was the early, 1900s, where women started going and getting, they started going working in factories. They started fighting against the people who were saying, hey, you're supposed to be working at home. They're like, well, no, we want to work. And they started, doing strikes and walking out. And it, of course, it like I said, it challenged people's thinking. And I think that is the way you should go in any situation like that. Instead of being the aggressor, instead of being the person who's just fighting out and lashing out, be the person who's like, oh, I'm just going to challenge the way you're thinking. I'm not going to be mean about it. I'm just going to make you think, is this really the right option? I guess that's kind of where, it's kind of where my thinking goes. What do you think, Julia?
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially, it's also, I feel like it's hard for, when things have been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years, it's just hard to just break out of that norm.
Yeah.
Because then, for the Amish, as an example, then, you get shunned by your family.
Yeah.
And then, imagine coming into today's society with no money, no friends, no family, nowhere to go, no resources, no nothing. Figuring that out is just so hard.
Yeah. And there's, like you said, coming in like that, it's very hard to get back up from that kind of fall. I mean, and it's not even because you did something bad. You challenged, you challenged the way of thinking, and other people didn't like that. And of course, it's going to happen in any society, but it does suck to see something like that happen, where someone is forced into a certain life, and at some point they're like, well, I see something better on the other side. I want to try that life. And everyone's like, well, now you're out of our family. You can't come back.
Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, that no one wants to. Everyone still wants. I mean, there's no kind way to say it. I mean, that sucks. No one wants to have to, leave everything they know, even if they're challenging it. I don't know. I think I know very few people who are willing to entirely leave something that they know for the unknown.
Definitely. But that's the thing, the grass is always greener, right?
Right.
So if you're a woman and you want to do, say you want to, go into the military in some sense, and, you don't have, I'm not saying, women are inherently weaker than men, because there are definitely, people that do, there's a spectrum.
Right.
But, say you want to go into the military because you want to, that's what you want to do, and it's, really hard, and it's, and then you, spent all this work, trying to, prove that you can, be as good as a man, quote unquote, but then it doesn't work out. So say then you want to, go back to, being a housewife or something, And it's just like, I think it just depends on the person, really, and
Yeah.
like you should be able to make that decision for
Right.
yourself.
Yeah, it depends on the people. And some people are honestly happy just being,
Mm-hmm.
they're happy being a stay-at-home mom. They're
Mhm.
happy just, doing, they're happy just taking care of the family, and that's great. There's no
Mhm.
there's no shame in that. There's nothing bad about that. It's just it's important not to force your way of living onto other people and force them to think the same things and feel the same things when the reality is they're probably, I mean, first of all, they're not the same person as
Mhm.
you are. They're going to have a different
Definitely.
thinking. And also, they might have been brought up differently. They might have been
Mhm.
brought up to be, to go, like you said, go into the military or to become heaven knows what, a construction worker,
Mhm.
whatever. I mean, there are definitely jobs that are more heavily advertised
Mhm.
for men,
Mhm.
even though they have women who do it.
Mhm.
It's more of a, I don't know how to say, it's more of a market to go
Mhm.
and advertise them for men because yes, it is, the military is more made up of men.
Mhm.
Now there are hundreds and hundreds of women that go into the
Mhm.
military service every year, and like I said, respect to every single person who enters the armed forces. But I don't think it's fair for some people to be like, oh, I don't like the military because they seem to only ever advertise for women. No, they're just saying realistically, it is more often than not men who join the military.
Mhm. Yeah. There's okay. In our town there's this little Hispanic cop like lady. You ever seen her?
No,
You ever seen
No.
her? I see her like Turkey Hill or something sometimes. But she is little. Like she's
Yeah.
really tiny.
Yeah.
And that's definitely like the big, I think, difference still between men and women.
Right.
Like because what makes her equal to a big like say like a man like you
Right,
being
right.
a cop? She has a gun now.
Right.
So now she's more likely to use her gun now as opposed to like, her brute strength.
Right. Right.
And so that's like bringing up a whole nother
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah. Yeah.
it's different. It's
Right. Because you try and compensate. You have like,
Mhm.
well, I'm not as strong as you, but I have something you don't
Yeah.
have. Right. That is almost. It doesn't, not in strength, but it's the same sort of I don't know, threat almost. It's
Mhm.
like, well, I can't just push you around. I can't necessarily command you as much as you could command
Mhm.
me, but I have something you don't have. One, I have a badge. I
Mhm.
have a police badge. I have the law behind me, and two,
Mhm.
I have a gun.
Mhm.
And yes, like you said, that brings up more issues. It's also, I mean, you could relate that to certain race issues,
Mhm.
right? Maybe not as much now, but definitely back then when there were very few black cops and it was mostly white cops, right? The say it was I don't know, say it was a black cop and a white cop were partnered together. The white cop might be more than, say it's they have a situation in a predominantly black neighborhood. The white cop's more likely to go to his gun. The
Mhm.
black cop's probably not going to, simply because, well, that it's just one. There's the prejudice.
Mhm.
There's the assumptions, the stereotypes, all that stuff that that social media, that everything throws at us, that we're
Yeah,
just like,
definitely.
that just makes us think, oh well, these people, and even that phrase, just saying "you people," that's so it's so offensive.
Derogatory.
I know, right? That's just grouping a whole population of people into one category, which is not fair. But it is important to be aware of when you see certain videos, or you see, you follow certain people and you see the kind of
Mhm.
content that they send out, and you see, how is this changing the way I think? How is this influencing what I think about a certain race, a certain gender, a certain group of people? Is it making me think negatively about them? Is it, you know, essentially just how is it affecting how I think?
Mhm.
I think that's the most important thing whenever you go into social media, whenever you read, even if reading a book,
Mhm.
don't ever take everything you read in a book as the 100% truth. I would say
Definitely.
always take it with a grain of salt. And
Yup.
be like, the
Mhm.
dude's, it's right. It's a book, right? You're reading a fiction book. That stuff isn't 100% true. That stuff is based off maybe what the author thinks, or maybe it's based off of a certain event that was happening at the
Mhm.
time, and is not necessarily reflective of the world today.
Yeah. Or even like with our like I don't want to say like with our technology
Yeah.
like but you know like
Yeah.
it's actually crazy like what you can generate these days.
Yeah.
Like like people like I mean maybe not me but like someone
Right,
could
right.
like take a video of you and like completely like distort
Oh, yeah,
the way
yeah.
what you're saying and like
Right.
make you say something
Yeah,
like
I
insane.
mean, deep fakes are like
Yeah.
everywhere. Those fake car crash videos. Like people will do anything just to make a certain group of people think something,
Definitely. Yeah.
and it's damaging to so many people because they're just trying to live their life, and someone else that they barely even know is out there attempting to just ruin them or at least ruin their group for no apparent reason. I mean, I honestly I never think there's any reason to purposefully try and go out and ruin or hurt anyone.
Yeah.
There's just no purpose to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. What? Here's a question. What if there's any? Was there any book that you read or any, Instagram, social media video or writing that you read or you watched that you saw and it completely changed how you thought about a certain topic, Julia or Kara, anything?
Not that I can think of right this second, but I know there definitely is like something. Oh, I didn't see it on social media, but there was like an incident over the summer with like me at marching band and my band director and all this stuff, and my mom was like explaining to him the whole situation because he just didn't seem to understand. But she was talking about how like you can't control other people's assumptions.
Right.
Like other people are going to assume things and all this
Right,
stuff
right.
and like you don't have control about that. So if someone's like assuming you're a bad person and like they think it's true, that's on them. Like especially if they don't know you. Like that's you're just assuming and that goes nowhere.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. I don't really get like influenced by that type of stuff. I think like my dad is like really into like politics and stuff. And he's definitely like watched some like people like listen to some podcasts or whatever and like I've heard some stuff. I've heard him make pretty good arguments that like change the way that I think about things. Or even just like you think so strongly, like you have such a strong opinion like about something and then once you have like an intimate experience like with that thing, it could definitely like change your views and like make you like kind of more sympathetic to people who are actually like going through stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I try and go into like anytime I'm gonna watch like a certain movie about a certain topic or I'm gonna read something about a certain topic, whether it's sensitive or not, I try and never go into that situation thinking, that my opinion is not gonna change. Because if you think your opinion's not gonna change, you've already, you're already not gonna pay attention. You're just gonna block it out and pretend to see it, and you're of course you're not going to change if you're just going to go into any situation thinking, well, I'm not going to change. It's not going to help you or anyone else. It just makes the situation entirely worse.
And no one wants to like listen to someone who like is so stubborn and hard-headed.
Right.
Like if you're like like politicking with someone or like debating with someone like and you're just like I'm right like no one's gonna want to listen to that.
Yeah, I think it's important instead of saying I'm right, say I'm confident that
that's
my viewpoint is not necessarily correct but is accurate,
backed up by
you make sure it's backed up, make sure it's at least can be viewed as accurate, necessarily by facts or just by things that happen repeatedly in that certain situation. Never go into any situation and be like, I'm right, you're wrong, because that's objective. That's objective to your specific role. That's not something you can just be like, definitively I am right and definitively you are wrong. But yeah, I mean, I bet I've probably made the mistake of making definitive remarks or definitive statements, but I think I try to never make a definitive statement about anything, and about anything that's like a heavily debated topic, a heavily sensitive topic.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to that, I try and be like, this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it.
Yeah.
But I would appreciate if you at least respected the opinion and at least
Definitely.
listened to it.
Yeah, and that's the thing I feel like about like politics or whatever, or, like social issues with stuff like that these days, is that like it's never like the two people against the problem, like
Right.
it's the people against each other, like
Right.
or like the parties against
Right.
each other. Like they're not, they're just so stubborn and like want to be like right so bad they don't actually want anything to change.
Yeah. I mean, because think about it. If the problem gets solved, then what are they going to fight about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, they'll find another problem, but then they just won't solve that problem. They'll just keep fighting. So that's almost the redundant side of literally everything in our country is that we have these problems. These problems pop up whether we create them or not. We fight about it with each other, not trying to fight the actual problem itself. We just fight with each other on how we deal with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking at, hey, how do we make this problem go away? We look at, how do we make you go away so that we can be the ones who are right and that we can be the ones who solve the problem.
Definitely.
It's such a warped way of thinking that it's like, I it's why whenever, whenever I see articles, whenever I see stupid, posts that the president made or whatever, so, the Republicans said this, the Democrats said this, I'm like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they going to solve the problem or are they just going to fight each other?
That's true.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. That's why I'm like, I kind of want to get into politics, but I also don't.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I know it's such a toxic, I feel like it's such a toxic atmosphere to get into. But
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, good points all around. I think one, it's important to never go into any situation thinking you are definitively right. Take it with a grain of salt that each person is in a unique role and unique situation in every circumstance. And yes, to them, the other person's wrong and you're right. That might be just how it looks from your viewpoint. But to them, you're wrong and they're right.
Exactly.
So instead of necessarily trying to figure out who's right and wrong about the situation, try and look at the root of the problem and try and solve that problem instead of fighting each other on who's got the correct solution. Try both of them. If one works, great. The solution's over. I honestly think that if you really asked, voters and people who are choosing who's going to be the next president or whatever, do they really care about who has the better solution, or do they care that there is a good solution? I don't care who has the good solution. I really don't, as long as the problem is solved. If the same person keeps trying to solve the problem, they're like, well, I'm right, I have the perfect solution, but it's not working. I'm going to be like, dude, I don't care. You can try and, pedal all the way, but if you're, if you got a stationary bike, you're not going to be moving nowhere. You're just doing all that grunt work for absolutely nothing,
I also think, like, it's sometimes with social issues like that, like, it's less about, like, a problem, like, because the two sides have completely different morals. And so the problem, like, is different for both of them.
Exactly, yeah. That's also a really good point. Very few, I mean, everyone has different view to certain things, such as, like, genetic engineering, right? It's not necessarily a problem. They just have different morals about it. They just have different views. Like, one side says, oh, we should do it. The other says we shouldn't. So it's, like you said, in that situation, it's not necessarily a problem. It's just it's an issue because it's something that they turn into an issue because they're like, well, we don't want this to happen. The other side says we do. They fight about it. And in the end, no one really wins. It just keeps getting delayed. It just keeps getting pushed back until a couple of years down the road, they find something else. Oh, we could do this. But no, of course, someone's going to have a problem with it. And of course, it's impossible to have any situation happen, any decision be made without someone who's not going to like it or without someone who's going to, just make a hissy fit about it. But I think you also got to kind of grow up a little and be like, is it really worth getting upset about that much.
Definitely.
But yeah. Well, it was great having you on this podcast. Great.
Yes. Thank
Glad we
you.
were able to make it happen. We hope you all enjoyed this episode. We hope you continue to listen and support this podcast. Of course, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, to name a few. And we hope that you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.